in which our protagonists, Anna and Levine, finally meet, and in which one of their tales comes to an end. Chapter 25. Feeling that the reconciliation was complete, in the morning Anna briskly began preparing for departure. Though it had not been decided whether they would go on Monday or on Tuesday, since they had kept yielding to each other the night before, Anna actively prepared for departure, now completely indifferent to whether they left a day earlier or later. She was standing in her room over an open trunk, sorting things, when he, already dressed, came into her room earlier than usual. "I'm going to see Maman right now. She can send me the money through Yegorov, and tomorrow I'll be ready to leave." Good as her state of mind was, the mention of going to his mother's country house stung her. "No, I won't be ready myself," she said, and at once thought, "So he could have arranged to do it the way I wanted." "No, do it the way you wanted. Go to the dining room. I'll come presently, as soon as I've sorted out the things I don't need," she said, putting something else over Anushka's arm, where a pile of clothes already hung. Vronsky was eating his beefsteak when she came out to the dining room. "You wouldn't believe how sick I am of these rooms," she said, sitting down beside him over her coffee. "There's nothing more terrible than these chambres garnies. They have no face to them, no soul. This clock, these curtains, above all this wallpaper, a nightmare. I think of Vodvishenko as a promised land. You're not sending the horses yet?" "No, they'll go after us. Are you going out somewhere?" "I wanted to go to Mrs. Wilson to take her some dresses. So it's tomorrow for certain?" she said in a cheerful voice. But suddenly her face changed. Vronsky's valet came to ask for a receipt for a telegram from Petersburg. There was nothing special in Vronsky receiving a telegram, but he, as if wishing to hide something from her, said that the receipt was in the study and quickly turned to her. "I'll certainly be done with everything by tomorrow." "Who was the telegram from?" she asked, not listening to him. "Stiva," he answered reluctantly. "Why didn't you show it to me? What secrets can there be between Stiva and me?" Vronsky called the valet back and told him to ring the telegram. "I didn't want to show it because Stiva has a passion for sending telegrams. Why send telegrams if nothing's been decided?" "About the divorce?" "Yes. But he writes, unable to obtain anything yet. Decisive answer promised in a day or two." "Read here." With trembling hands, Anna took the telegram and read the same thing Vronsky had said. At the end there was also added, "Little hope, but we'll do everything possible and impossible. I said yesterday that I'm totally indifferent when I get the divorce, or even whether I get it at all," she said, flushing. "There was no need to hide it from me." And she thought, in the same way he can and does conceal his correspondence with women from me. "And Yashvin wanted to come this morning with Voitov," said Vronsky. "It seems he's won everything from Pevsov, even more than he can pay. About 60,000. "No," she said, irritated that by this change of subject he should make it so obvious to her that she was irritated. Why do you think this news interests me so much, that you even have to conceal it? I said I don't know what to think about it, and I wish you were as little interested in it as I am. I'm interested because I like clarity. Clarity is not informed in love, she said, getting more and more irritated not by his words, but by the tone of calm tranquility in which he spoke. What do you want that for? My God, he thought, wincing. Again about love. You know what for. For you and for the children to come, he said. There won't be any children. That's a great pity, he said. You need it for the children. But you don't think about me? She said, completely forgetting or not hearing that he had said, for you and for the children. The question about the possibility of having children had long been in dispute, and it irritated her. She explained his wish to have children by the fact that he did not value her beauty. I did say for you most of all, he repeated, wincing as if from pain, because I'm sure that the greater part of your irritation comes from the uncertainty of your situation. Yes, now he stopped pretending, and I can see all his cold hatred of me, she thought, not listening to his words, but gazing with horror at the cold and cruel judge who looked out of his eyes, taunting her. That's not the cause, she said, and I do not even understand how the fact that I'm completely in your power can be a cause of irritation, as you put it. What is uncertain in my situation? On the contrary. It's a great pity you don't want to understand, he interrupted her, stubbornly wishing to express his thought. The uncertainty consists in the fact that to you it seems I'm free. Concerning that, you may be perfectly at ease, she said, and turning away, began to drink her coffee. She raised her cup, holding out her little finger, and brought it to her lips. After taking several sips, she glanced at him, and, from the expression on his face, clearly understood that he was disgusted by her hand, and her gesture, and the sound her lips made. I am perfectly indifferent to what your mother thinks, and how she wants to get you married, she said, setting the cup down with a trembling hand. But we're not talking about that. Yes, precisely about that. And believe me, a woman with no heart, whether she's old or not, your mother or someone else's, is of no interest to me, and I do not care to know her. Anna, I beg you not to speak disrespectfully of my mother. A woman whose heart cannot tell her what makes for the happiness and honor of her son is a woman with no heart. I repeat my request. Do not speak disrespectfully of my mother, whom I respect, he said, raising his voice and looking sternly at her. She did not reply, gazing intently at him, at his face, his hands. She remembered in all its details the scene of yesterday's reconciliation and his passionate caresses. Those caresses, exactly the same as he has lavished and will lavish and wants to lavish on other women, she thought. You don't love your mother. It's all words, 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 she said, looking at him with hatred. In that case we must decide. And I've decided, she said, and was about to leave. But just then Yashvin came into the room. Anna greeted him and stopped. Why, when there was a storm in her soul, and she felt she was standing at a turning point in her life that might have terrible consequences, why, at such a moment, she should have to pretend in front of a stranger, who would learn everything sooner or later anyway, she did not know. But having instantly calmed the storm within her, she sat down and began talking with the visitor. Well, how are things? Did you get what was owed you? She asked Yoshvin. Oh, things are all right. It seems I won't be getting the whole sum, and I have to leave on Wednesday. And when are you leaving? Said Yoshvin, narrowing his eyes and glancing at Vronsky, obviously guessing that a quarrel had taken place. The day after tomorrow, I think, said Vronsky. You've been intending to for a long time, though. But now it's decided, said Anna, looking straight into Vronsky's eyes with a stare meant to tell him that he should not even think of the possibility of a reconciliation. Aren't you sorry for this poor Pestsov? She went on, talking with Yashvin. I've never asked myself whether I'm sorry or not, Anna Arkadyevna. Just as in war you don't ask whether you're sorry or not. My whole fortune is here. He pointed to his side pocket. And I'm a rich man now, but tonight I'll go to the club and maybe leave it a beggar. The one who sits down with me also wants to leave me without a shirt, as I do him. So we struggle. And that's where the pleasure lies. Well, and if you were married, said Anna, how would your wife feel? Yoshvin laughed. That must be why I never married, and never wanted to. And Helsingfors, said Vronsky, entering the conversation, and he glanced at the smiling Anna. Meeting his glance, Anna's face suddenly assumed a coldly stern expression, as if she were telling him, It's not forgotten. It's as it was. Can you have been in love? She said to Yashvin. Oh, Lord, more than once. But you see, one man can sit down to cards, but be able to get up when the time comes for a rendezvous, whereas I can be busy with love, but not be late for a game in the evening. That's how I arrange it. No, I'm not asking about that, but about the present. She was going to say Helsingfors, but did not want to say the word Vronsky had said. Voitov came, the purchaser of the stallion. Anna got up and walked out. Before leaving the house, Vronsky came to her room. She was about to pretend to be looking for something on the table, but, ashamed of pretending, she looked straight into his face with cold eyes. What do you want? She asked him in French. Gambetta's papers. I've sold him, he replied in a tone that said more clearly than words, I have no time to talk, and it gets us nowhere. I'm not guilty before her in anything, he thought. If she wants to punish herself, tant pis pour elle. But as he went out, he thought she said something, and his heart was suddenly shaken with compassion for her. What, Anna? He asked. Nothing, she replied in the same cold and calm voice. If it's nothing, then tant pis, he thought, growing cold again, and turned and went out. As he was leaving, he saw her face in the mirror, pale, with trembling lips. He would have liked to stop and say something comforting to her, but his legs carried him out of the room before he could think of what to say. He spent the whole day away from home, and when he came back late in the evening, the maid told him that Anna Arkadyevna had a headache, and asked him not to come to her. If you enjoy this format, please leave a like and subscribe and return tomorrow for the next chapter.